All right, well, welcome to the, I think it's the final panel of the day. And this is Inside the Servicer Mindset, where servicers will share priorities, pain points, expectations, and what's changing in oversight, performance, and vendor relationships. So good afternoon. I'm Jody Gaines. I'm CEO of G7 Service Group and Claims Recovery Financial Services. I've got to say, it's great to be in this, I would like to say full room. It's great to be in a room that understands the realities of field services and default servicing. It's not just at the policy level, but at the property level where the execution actually happens. Inspection and preservation services are a critical piece of default servicing. Poor quality or untimely results can make or break the servicers and the vendors, not only financially, but reputationally, right? Like if you're not doing a good job and the word gets out, it hurts the servicers and it does hurt the vendors, right? Like maybe we're going to cut back your work. Everything needs to be done quicker. Rules and guidelines are constantly changing, and the pressures are mounting. Meanwhile, volumes are increasing. So are we ready? So where does this leave us? It leaves us with a clear opportunity to strengthen alignment, improve communication, and ultimately partner together to improve our overall process. So this session is about transparency, where vendors often guess what servicers want, and today we're removing the guesswork. Please join me in welcoming our panelists who will spend the next 40-plus minutes addressing what their needs and expectations are. And throughout the conversation, we're going to sprinkle in some audience participation, and then we're going to save time at the end for questions and answers that our panelists have so kindly agreed to accept. So to my left is Lisa Walker, who is the Assistant Vice President of Operations and Operations Manager at U.S. Bank, heavily focused on property preservation. Next, we have Brooke Marshall, who's the VP of Property Preservation at Loan Care. And last, and certainly not least, is Charles Truffrey, who's the SVP of Default Operations for Essex Mortgage. So I'm going to kick this off with my first question to Lisa, and then, of course, if Charles and Brooke want to add in, they're welcome to. Let's see here. So, Lisa, what is your number one priority, if you will, or need when it comes to property preservation, and why is this so important?
So for me, our top number one is timely completion of work, full transparency, and strong controls over SLAs, okay? Photos is another huge thing, right, that is really, really critical to what we see on a daily basis. You guys are the boots on the ground for us, and if you don't show it, we don't know it, right? So it's really, really important.
Yeah, and not only if you don't show it, we don't know it, but in so many cases, it prohibits us from recovery, right? Like if we don't have the backup, the investors, insurers are going to give us a hard time, or if somebody's calling and they have an issue or a concern, how can I prove that it was done, right? So, Brooke or Charles, you want to add anything to that? Good? Okay. All right, let's see here. Our next question is for Brooke, and that is, what are the biggest issues or gaps that you're seeing, and why is this a concern?
Biggest one I'm seeing, and I've heard it a couple times today in some of the sessions, are photos. I know that's probably a lot of pain points from my side all the way down to the actual vendors. Many times we're having to send these back to the nationals because either we don't have the correct photos, we're missing photos, or they're unclear. We are bound by our clients and investors in ensuring that we have these. One, not only just because we can't see what you see, but two, it is also a claimability side for our clients, make sure that they're recoverable. The other thing is accurate bids and estimates. Those are critical because I if we don't have them, we miss timelines. We may not be able to get HUD extensions timely. And it'll also affect the OAs because when just an example, FHA, you send a OA to FHA, and if you don't have supporting photos along with the accurate bid, they're going to get denied, which also denies timelines, and then we're sending you back out. So if we could get it right the first time or, attempt to, it also helps us. And then one last thing just for some of the nationals is just making sure you're submitting all bids to investors prior to sending it to me if they're conveyance items. Again, we're the subservicer. We have clients that we answer to, so we need to make sure we get all the investor approvals first and get them all at one time. We don't want piecemeals because every single time we have the piecemeals, not only is it affecting timelines, but it's also affecting investors like FHA who don't want to see them as well.
Now, I'll bring up the challenge too, right, with the photos. If they're not there, the M&M's coming after them. They're going to issue demands, and that just is going to create a lot of work for everybody. And not only that, but they're pretty time sensitive, right? So if you miss them, now they're asking for a check, right? So, we don't want to do that. So, all right. Lisa, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, just another thing on the photos. When you enter the home, right, I'm looking at those photos and I'm trying to understand the layout of this property. I would appreciate it, I think we all would, if when you enter the home, you're starting out showing us the photos. I think I should be able to look at those photos and know the layout of that home, what every ceiling looks like, every floor looks like, every wall looks like, over the door hangings, what did that look like, right? Everything. It includes the roof. It includes the basements, crawl spaces, right, if you have one. We're noticing that they're like skipping through and we're missing entire rooms. Don't even know the room existed. The room could have experienced a fire, could have total mold damage. These issues, we'll say the property's ICC, it gets sent to HUD, bam, it's back, it's a reconveyance. We never saw it, right? So we're going to go back to the national and say, hey, this is on you. You didn't show us this. If they didn't see it, they're coming back to the boots on the ground. Okay, so photos are very important. Clear photos, flash. All of our cameras have flashes. There's times we see photos where it's just a dark room. We can't make out what's in there. So we know you can't see it, right? And we definitely can't see it. So photos are very important.
So, kind of going off with both Brooke and Lisa said, the items that we get back, at the end of the day, we just want stuff done. Honestly, it's done right, it's done properly, it's not going to cause problems down the road. If that's done, like I was saying earlier in another one, you don't hear from us, right? So, that's when we have to ask questions like, okay, so why am I having to check behind you? Where's your QA process of your own stuff? Then we get that feedback, well, hey, we do sample testing, it's a dream of mine, and I'm going to throw out my dream, is that I believe as an industry, servicers have got to not remove oversight, but being removed of so much oversight of vendors, and I'm saying all vendors, just not preservation. I just want to make sure I clarify that, where we have to have so many staff to follow up what's going on, questioning, challenging. And, for me as a servicer, when I'm partnering with vendors, that's a big thing for me. I don't want to talk to you every day. We can hang out, but I don't want to talk to you about business every day. And I don't, because it takes so much time, resources, and money. Because I have to hire staff. I have to pay staff. I would like eventually, where we can go as an industry back to that model of, I'm going to pick on a company. The company's called A Company. A company, I'm hiring you to do preservation for FHA. These are the requirements. These are their timelines. These are the thing. go make it happen. You need Nova Reliable, you know how to get it. Don't send it to me without it for payment. I'm not going to review your stuff. If you don't have the support, and I go to a claim, you're going to get billed back immediately, no questions asked. You do a reconveyance. You didn't have a QA process to make sure that you checked everything on the house. You told me it's ICC. We convey it. It comes back because that dark room that didn't have a flash, that's your property. You just pretty much bought a property. I know that's not very favorable, but taking the servicers from asking the questions, which is a drag on staff for the vendors, because how many emails are they getting, having to follow up with just from clients, us clients? What's the status on this one loan? When is ICC? Have you done the inspection? When am I going to get a bid? Where are we at on the has work? And I can just keep going. I would like us as an industry to kind of change our, I guess, methodology on how we do oversight.
So Charles, you would like it at the vendors, like if we could say, we're going to give you delegated authority. We hire you because you know the rules and the guidelines. Here's what I want, and now I just want you to do it, right? So don't come back and forth to me every single time. Just kind of own it. Only, if there's, a question maybe, or you run into something, yeah, of course, But I'm curious, maybe show of hands, who in this room as vendors would say, man, sign me up, I want delegated authority, I'm in. Yeah, really good, right? I agree, yeah. Saves time and money.
It does, and when you look at it, from, my perspective, right? And I've done servicing, sub-servicing, all types of actions at different places. And it's, to me, I'm a sub-servicer, if I'm working at a sub-servicer and I'm doing this, working for this client that gave me 500,000 loans, okay? They have a number of 3 people, maybe 4, maybe 5, a handful to monitor the entire servicing of their files. I mean, everything, escrow, calls, you name it, they're handling it all. Well, so now they're hiring me, they have 4 people monitoring me, I gotta have 4 people to monitor one process, which I'm paying somebody to do that process. So that's where my stance is, where I'm coming from. That's where it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And I'm always willing to partner if there's an opportunity on how do we get there.
Yep, love it. Okay. Charles, coming right back to you. What behaviors and metrics matter more now than they did 5 years ago?
The metrics, we've kind of hit it through a couple panels over and over again. It's really about getting the stuff done timely. The SLAs, driving SLAs. I think that with working with preservation vendors, there's a lot of opportunity that we don't know about. And because, the vendor's a great partner, they're great people, but they don't, what I call, buck the system, push back. How can we do this to increase the efficiency on this, to make it quick where we don't sacrifice quality? I know there's ideas out there, but I will say I hardly ever get ideas because we just get, it's human nature, we just get stuck in the process, doing it the same way, it's work. But what I've heard today, and again, thanks for inviting me first time here, really excited, is...
You're welcome.
There seems to be a lot of opportunity. There seems to be disconnect, and I know for my teams, it's really important that if you have a problem, you say it. It might not be the best idea. Let's talk about it. We can't do it today, but how do we get there, right? It's a big collaboration, and I know we talk about metrics, but this kind of drives the metrics. How am I expect a company to move faster when they're not adding technology? They don't want to add people because that's a cost. So how can they? It goes back to the process. Where can we shave time there? Where can I get a 5% efficiency on it? 10%. I think there's opportunities.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and I mean, like you said, you don't get to hear from them. Collaboration, right? Well, and this is NAMFS, right? It's just such a great opportunity for that because I'm sure there's plenty of people that would love to tell you like where we could gain efficiencies, right? So, and the good news is, you get a shot, you get a chance to like talk about that as we get to Q&A. So, Brooke or Lisa, anything else you want to add to that?
Some of the things that we're watching are the increased losses. That's really big right now, and it's not something any one of us from our level to the client's level down to the vendor's level that we want to talk about. But it is happening, and it's something that, again, we can all collaborate. I did hear it like Charles did on the same of the panel. I'm big on communication, and if you're not understanding what we're asking for, let's talk about it, because I'm here to partner with you because I want to make sure that I do a good job. So that's one of the big things that I'm really huge on is communication and effective communication. And again, if there's something that another, to stop some losses, if I have a process in place that may not mirror your other 5, clients, let's talk about it, because maybe I am missing something. And that's what I like about having that communication.
Yeah, so best practices, right? Like what's working.
Yep.
And yeah, absolutely.
For me, I'm going to say transparency, collaboration, pay attention to urgency, okay? Things of that nature. And I agree with my other partners up here. If there's something that your other servicers are doing, we're not doing, let's talk about it, right? We're always open for that conversation. We can't say that we're doing everything 100% correct all the time, right? No one's perfect. So, and times are changing, right? So we have to be able to move and change along with the times.
Okay. Let's see here. Brooke, this one's for you. And of course, Charles and Lisa can weigh in. What's one thing that vendors focus on that matters far less than what they think? So, tip for some efficiency for you all, maybe.
Things that, matter far less than you think are, some of the bids that we receive are really unnecessary. If you can provide me correct bids, that are not needed for conveyance, by doing that wastes a lot of our time, because again, Charles talks about QC. We are QCing you, you're QCing, the nationals are QCing the vendors, the clients are QCing us on our end because I'm a sub-servicer. And that all comes with additional training with investor guidelines. And I think with that, if we can focus on that, it's going to make the world better. I know, like you said, times are changing, and we all need to be flexible, but that's something, just give me the bids per the investor guidelines that I need, and I guarantee you I'll get you, if it's not something that the investor needs to approve, like Freddie Mac or Fannie, we'll get it back to you faster, and we turn it back faster, so you can turn your profit faster.
So Brooke, do you find when you're looking through these bids, do you find that it's just a whole lot of stuff that isn't required, or is it lack of support?
No, it's stuff that's not required for conveyance.
So maybe that's, I heard that on a couple panels today, right? From all the way down to the to the feet on the ground, the boots on the ground. Terminology, right? Boots on the ground. Making sure that everybody understands, right? Because if they're doing all this unnecessary work, I just heard that a couple panels ago about taking the time, doing all this, check sheets aren't the same, all this extra work. Maybe there's an opportunity there to, very specific on what is needed to save time. So.
Yeah, and I think too, one of the topics we talked about during our planning was, kind of calling things damages that really aren't damages, right? Like just being really thoughtful of that, especially if you're submitting bids to the investors and insurers. Like we know, HUD sees, damages, right? What are they going to say? File an insurance claim. And then we're looking at delays, right? Then delays are expensive. So maybe that could be an opportunity as well. And then, you hit it. It's if it's FHA, is it required conveyance condition? If it's not, don't bid it. All we're doing is taking up valuable time, right? All righty. Let's see. How is the oversight of assets changing, Charles?
What was that
How
question?
is the oversight changing?
Well, I kind of just hit on it a little bit
Yeah, you
earlier.
did.
It's going to more of ownership. I mean, Brooke, a little bit ago about losses. As we all know, servicing world, that a delinquent loan is expensive. Nobody wants delinquent loans. It's not, I always tell people we're not in the, like you see in the old Western movies, where the bank wants to take my house because they want to build a railroad, right? That's everywhere I've worked, I've never seen that. So I know it was a movie. Well, it's the same thing. These properties, they're very costly. Again, everything from, warehouse lines to the advances, warehouse on advances, and that adds up. Stuff that you can't get recoverable, that you have pass-throughs, cost of doing business, and then on top of it, then you have the stuff where what is called errors. So the oversight is definitely, for those that haven't seen it yet, I would strongly encourage you to understand it, because from the industry, that's coming. And if it's not already with you already, it's coming, and it's coming very quickly. Because, when you're a sub-servicer, like Brooke said, right, they have clients that are watching every one of their dimes. And if they don't get reimbursed, they're saying, Brooke, why am I not getting reimbursed? And then Brooke's going, hey, why A company? Why couldn't you make this claimable? And it kind of goes down there. So losses is going to continue causing additional oversight until that can actually be remediated back to comfortable levels. I say comfortable.
All right, kind of like you hit on it before, right? Like, got to get the job done and know how to do it. Lisa, what defines a high-value vendor relationship?
That's defined as a relationship where one that reduces risk, understand investor guidelines, and escalates issues or concerns timely. Very, very important. The more transparent you are, the better relationship you have with your regionals, your nationals. It's just a better working relationship, right? We're all trying to reduce our risk out there. If it's a pre-sale property and you come to me, and this actually happened, and they asked if they could get rid of some items that were in the garage that had gas. So I said, well, remove the gas. But you can't get rid of these snow blowers, you can't get rid of the lawnmowers because it's a pre-sale property, right? Well, went in there and they actually took the items. Did not drain the gas, they just took the items, period. So when you have these owners come back and they're like, hey, I redeemed my property, where's my property? Where are my snow blowers? I had 2 in there, I had a riding lawnmower in there. Guess what? We went back to our nationals and said, hey, that's on you. We didn't say take those out, right? So then that cost trickled down. Instead of asking a question, if you don't understand a direction or something that we're asking you to do, just come back and ask the question. I'm willing to jump on the phone with anyone and explain what it is I need you to do, right? It's just a better relationship. It reduces our risk, and it just helps us all.
Yeah, and it's hard to know, right? There's nationals, and then they they hire contractors, boots on the ground to do the work. So is it the boots on the ground that maybe has a question, and they go to the national, and is the national? I mean, I don't know, really, right? Like, I think as nationals, we always want to help, right? We're always there and available to answer the questions. But the boots on the ground, they're more than likely not coming directly to you. They're going to go to the national. So I think just as good partners, right, we're always available, hopefully, to answer those questions. And if we don't know, then we call the servicers, right? Yeah? Okay.
So I think kind of adding to Lisa's is the example that she gave is a great opportunity for business rules, where I don't have to send an email to Lisa. I don't have to send an email to Charles or Brooke, right? That's built in this scenario. This is how you handle it pre-sale. And that should be listed in business rules, and you should be following that, right? I think that's just an opportunity of collaboration. Again, where can we find efficiencies? There's an opportunity right there.
And
I
that's
think
something
we need
that,
to get you on a podcast,
No.
Kelly.
oh, those are fun. And I have to piggyback off that, talking about business rules. We didn't have them years ago. And now that, as time gone, people have learned, industry's changing, being able to have that transparent, effective communication, as I've said a few times, I guess that's my key word, communication. But having solid business rules, and that way I'm communicating to the nationals are communicating down, the boots are on the ground. And I try to keep everything with my subservicing agency is consistent with one each other. One vendor is responsible for the same thing as another vendor is, and they're all consistent. I don't have one business rules for one vendor and another one for the other one. And I guess the only thing I wanted to add was just own the product. If it's good and you did great, we're going to praise you for it. And as well as you should praise the people working for you all, right? And then if it's bad, own it. Like, you messed up. We are human too. Believe me, we've made many mistakes. But if you do that, and I heard it earlier where we're talking about the contractors to the regionals, or the regionals to the nationals, that there's just a broken site. We never hear that piece. So if they don't understand, then we need to be able to effectively communicate back down what our expectations are, and always provide suggestions. Again, we're not all perfect, and we all run. I heard it. We all have different forms. We're trying to make everything standard to our other competitive clients. So,
Okay, let's see here. Not necessarily going in order, but we're going to do it anyways. So what is one piece of advice that you would give for our audience? And Brooke, start with you.
I kind of pointed out already. Solid piece of advice would be, as it comes to the actual work, just training. Yeah, I know you can't train, but you can provide those business rules that you talk to, because that helps out a lot. It takes out the middleman. Knowing your investor guidelines. I mean, I know they're changing. I know the pricing's not what we need them to be, but just understanding the guidelines really helps us out. And if you don't know them, we'll help coach as well. Because believe it, we hear it on the other side.
Okay. Charles.
The advice I would give you, and it was kind of talked a little bit earlier in another panel, is about, one voice. Okay, one voice. That last panel that was on right before us, listening through it and everything, and it just dawned on me. I'm like, okay, so interesting to hear different perspectives, but I sense frustration because things might not be moving fast enough. We're still dealing with stuff that might have been dealing with a while ago. And, one of the examples is everybody's talking about the property inspection checklist and everything. I think there's a great opportunity, get the nationals to get together with their clients, all the nationals get together with their clients, formalize one list that keeps everybody compliant and helps avoid any type of risk. Because I know that everybody wants an edge. That's how you get the clients. I got this. I can get you this 15 pieces of data, or this 24. And out of that extra 24 pieces of data, I might use one piece of it every 16 years. Does it really make sense? It doesn't. I think that, staying as one voice and keep that one voice keep going up, and the national companies help drive the change that is needed with the servicers. Reasonable people will make reasonable decisions. I always say that.
Yeah, and I think, Brooke, I think you kind of hit on it too, right? Like, give us feedback. Like, if we're asking for something that's just so bizarre and out there that makes no sense, and maybe I'm the client, that I'm the reason why we can't have standardization. Like, talk, right? Give us that feedback, hopefully, right? Okay. What would you say, Lisa?
One thing I would say, one bit of advice would be to take pride in the work you do. Good workmanship, okay? It's really important. It goes a long way. I mean, I tell it to our vendors all the time, hey, get vendor number such and such. They do great work, right? So it's really, really important. When we know that what we're getting from you is right, is full transparency, you're helping us reduce our risk, we take pride in that, right? So we want you to take pride in yourself. It's really, really important, and I think that would help everyone. So if you could do anything out there today, take pride in what you do. Give good results.
Okay, let's see. We're one question away before we come and ask audience questions. So, Charles, what should preservation companies be doing? Let me see here. What should preservation companies be doing to move from the 2010 to 2020 model to the requirements needed to automate processes for the clients to include claims?
Yeah, I think they've touched a little bit on it already. One, I think I can't remember. Earlier in the panel we were talking about this, how things in 2010, 11, 12, and how the pendulum swung a certain way. So everybody got all frazzled, and we had to put all this stuff in because there was losses and reconveyances, and we're still doing with that same mindset. I mean, we're 2026. Technology is all over the place. I heard it on the last panel, opportunities, using technology where you can automate, start using unified systems. All that's important, right? Because at the end of the day, mostly everything that is done gets put into a claim, mortgage insurance claim. And for me, that's a very sensitive subject for me. I love claims. That I look at everything as my money, my piggy bank, and I want it reimbursed. And it's to get to that, even with these changes, we have to change. Servicers have to change. Vendors have to change. We have to listen to each other. And I always say, don't make silly mistakes. How do we how can we put stuff to help? I think there's a conversation talking about AI. I think there's a panel on that one, right? Yeah. About AI and how can, where's there opportunities for that? You know what? Use AI to do QA on pictures, after we reduce it from 500 pictures down to what is needed. But, go back to that. But I mean, there's opportunity, and we have to use that technology to help reduce cost. I've been to other preservation conferences, and I hear about, oh, we're going to do this, we want to do this, this is going to revolutionize the industry, and nothing. And it goes back to, again, one voice. We have to drive what makes sense. So.
Yeah, and I'll say, that one voice, absolutely having the servicers involved is so critical, right? Because sometimes, we'll try to go as a vendor, and we're looked at well, you're the vendor, you're not the servicer, right? Sometimes, not always, but, so I love that, right? And so big opportunity for how we can collectively all continue to work together. So. Lisa, I know we talked a little bit about some of your concerns when it comes to HOA, so why don't you dig into that a little bit more?
Well, I actually have a question. How are you managing out in the field the HOAs and the challenges with no trespassing? That's a huge issue that I've been seeing. So if anyone can answer to that, I'm open to hear.
I'll tell you what, for us, oh, thank you, Walter. You've been great today. I would say for us, you know, it really comes down to the relationships with HOAs, and really in any community. They're exceptionally, or they can be exceptionally challenging, HOAs to put it nicely. But it comes down to the relationships and then also with the local vendors. So like being able to say, well, this vendor's from this town. So it's not like there's a stranger coming in, somebody's coming out from 3 hours away or something like that. And none of that's perfect, right? There's times where you get turned around. There's times that I go out to a property and I get turned around and I try to sweet talk my way, you know, and they're like, can I please come in? I just need to take a couple pictures. You know, brought you cookies, I got chocolate, you want a Coke, what do you know, whatever you'd like. And so, but I think that the biggest piece of that is the relationships. They really matter. And so being able to talk with the HOA and then articulating the value, right? And so like the value of the service. Hey, if you don't let me in here, I can't fix problems. Your property values are then going to be impacted and your people are going to be really upset. Let me come in here. Let me fix the problems that we're allowed to fix under the guidelines and what have you. Let me keep the property maintained. Let's move it through the process and let's get somebody else home, right? And a new member of your community. So just kind of the way you frame it, communicate it, but it's all down to that relationship.
That's perfect.
So I got a follow-up question for you.
Love it.
I know, here we go. Okay, so, the relationship, right? What else can a servicer give you to get that property inspection? Do you need a formalized letter? Do you need something that says, Charles said so? I mean, what can we do to help you get in that house to take the pictures that we need, you know, to take care of the property?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I would say definitely, and we've ran into instances with our team where we've needed to reach out and say, hey, we need something on the letterhead, preferably with a phone number in case there needs to be a call to verify that that's, you know, what it is. And it delays the process, right? Like we, as a field services company, we're not necessarily able to bill for the time that we're sitting there, you know, waiting for them to call and verify, but we are able to then move the process along, and you know, do things like that. And there's been instances where we've had to do that, not necessarily even with like FHA, but like with the California wildfires, right? We do a lot of different insurance inspections and stuff where we were being turned around, whether it was HOA, sheriff's department, what have you, and I had to personally get on the phone with a lot of them and say, okay, let us through. We need to get the foot, because it's got to move through the process, right? But to answer your question just directly is yes, like any type of letter, but also as vendors, we need to be requesting that. And that's very important for all of us as field services companies, recognizing, hey, I know this is a challenging property. Let me notate the system that it's a challenge, like challenge to access property, and let's make sure we get that documentation on file so then we can then provide that every single time we hit, because we're not just going usually just one time. And so it's so what you all were saying, the partnership of it, right? Like the transparency, the communication. So yeah, I mean, but the letters we found to be helpful, specifically.
Yeah, so like after the first time, right? I've gone to this HOA, they're refusing to let me in. I need a letter. Like, let's go, right?
Exactly.
Hopefully.
Exactly.
Cool. I think we got a question in the back. Go ahead, Lisa. Yep.
Oh, I got you.
You're hired, Chen.
No problem. There you are.
Thank you. My name is Mick Grossbaugh. We run a company out of Colorado. We mainly do inspections, and we cover Colorado, South Dakota, North Dakota, and Montana, statewide coverage for inspections. And thank you so much for asking a question that I would love to talk about, and that is no trespassing. I can't tell you how much of my time I spend with the no trespassing issue. The states that I just mentioned, you can I don't have a lot of problem with HOAs in those states, but we have an awful lot of problems with no trespassing. And the issue that we're running into, and there's several layers to it. There is a safety layer to it, and there also is a legality issue to it, and then there also is a documentation issue to it as well. So the first issue we deal with is safety, is that really when someone puts up a no trespassing sign, what they're really saying is, I don't want anybody on my property. And they also, in the states that we're dealing with, there's people that have in their mind, because they have put up this no trespassing sign, that they have certain rights that they can do. So it's not really, so the first issue is, it's not really an issue of what is legal, it's what is the safety, because if they think they can shoot you, it doesn't matter if I'm right or if I'm wrong, they're going to shoot me. So you have that issue number one. Then the second issue that you have is legality, and we run into with the police departments and everything else that they're not familiar with our industry. We're not really provided with anything that looks legal. So we get a work order that says, go do this, maybe deliver a door hanger or go knock on a door, and you show that to a law enforcement officer, and there's no owner name, there's no anything on it, and there's nothing legal that says, so what here in this work order supersedes the state law that they're there to enforce? We have nothing on that. And I do believe that in the documentation that people sign on the mortgage contract, that we do probably have the right as the representative to do that, but we don't have it on site with us. We've never been provided for it. I have asked for years and years and years, I'm like, give me something with a letterhead or with a company, something that I can show to law enforcement, because whether they're right or wrong, if they charge us or if they do that, that's cost, that's time, and that goes on to our records. So we have to nip it in the bud right there. Like, that has to stop right there. There has to be enough documentation that we have to stop law enforcement from going any farther, because it starts to snowball. And then there is the actual legality. And so what we're doing right now is, and I will, since we have you guys with servicers, we're on the bottom rung, so we don't necessarily see what you need. And I know that the government has documentation and everything else, but when I come up to a house and I can see the house right there, but I have a no trespassing sign, and you guys want a door hanger or maybe a door knock, but the house is clearly occupied. So I can take all of my pictures right here, I can show you that the house is occupied, so you have no risk, but yet I get a follow-up and I get, hey, you need to go past this no trespassing sign. What value is there that I can give you that I can't, by going past the sign, that I can't get you from right there? So our standpoint is that if I can give you the information that covers your compliance, that you now know that the house is occupied, because you can't do anything if it's occupied. If I tell you the fence is blown down, or if I tell you there's a garage door hanging there, but the house is occupied, where you have the information, but you can't do anything about it. So we escalate it to, if the house appears vacant, now we have an issue. And depending on my states, according to the lawyers that I've talked to, and I've been in a whole bunch of contact with Cyprex's general counsel as we've gone back and forth on about this stuff, is that there's nothing in the state statutes that say if the house is abandoned, you can go past the no trespassing sign. Now, there may be something in the deed of trust that you guys have, but we don't have anything like that. So I think we need to get a system where we go out and we're like, hey, this house is vacant, similar to what we were just talking about with the HOA. Hey, this house appears to be vacant. I can post on the fence, so the property now has a posting, so that might cover some of your liability. But if you want me to go further next month, I'm going to need documentation to go past this. Or we're going to need preservation or a service processor or someone who has the legal authority to go through this. Now, I do know of some of the service companies who have flat out told us, we don't want you to go past no trespassing signs, because they have basically lost situations across the country. So this is a major deal, and I will say, how can I say this diplomatically? It seems like some of the state and local governments, they don't like us, and they don't like banks, and they don't like you guys.
That's very true. Welcome to New York.
So consequently, their laws tend to protect the occupants and the residents rather than protecting us. And so, of course, what always happens is I get, and I'm sure any inspector out here, how many times have you ever gotten a follow-up that says store-bought no trespassings don't count? Have you got those? Right? Where would you buy a no trespass? So a store-bought no trespassing sign doesn't count. And but if you paint a sign that just says no trespassing, that doesn't count. So they're like, only those issued by law enforcement. I'm sorry, does your police department just hand out no trespassing signs? Like, it's just it's crazy.
So I would say let's start back with your first concern.
Okay, awesome.
Right?
So thank you so much for letting me talk.
Yeah. So I don't know, panelists, right? If someone came to you and said, "Hey, I need something here for letterhead to prove that I am able to inspect this home," right? Like,
Yeah.
I gotta believe you guys are gonna help them.
So we do provide our nationals a authorization letter. It is usually a generic form, but if there is a need for an actual property address, they just give me a call. I fill out the form, sign it, and then they take it back. We do it for utilities. We do it for gated communities, no trespassing. So there is documentation that we do for our nationals. And just so you know, our thought process is your safety comes first. If there is any threat of anything, or you think that somebody's going to come around that corner, because I live in the country too, I know what you're talking about. Don't want to step on your property. But as long as you're communicating back to me, hey, this is unsafe. I can see the house. I also ask my nationals to provide me 3 reasons why they feel it's either vacant and abandoned or occupied. And that's good enough for me. And that's how we take it back to the investors to fight. So.
Yeah, I agree with Brooke. We're the same way. We do provide the letter of authorizations. It is generic. But if you need more and you're in the field, reach out to your national. They can reach out to us and we'll get it for you. I mean, there's times where I've called the police myself. I've actually picked up the phone and called and said, hey, our vendor has someone out at the field. This is what's happening. Can you assist? Right? I mean, this person is afraid for their life, or we had one person where they wouldn't even let them off the property. Right? And so there are things we can do. I've called code officers. Help, you were in this property before, right? They're telling me that this property's occupied because someone's in there. If you all boarded it, how is it occupied now? Somebody needs to go check that out, right? Because it's boarded. I need your help. So we do reach out. It's just important that, for the boots on the ground, when you're in the field, call your national. Call them from the spot. I have an issue. Make sure it gets escalated to us, the servicers, so that we can help you. Okay? Because we don't want anyone hurt. Your safety comes first. You guys got to go home to your families. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, the message that they have really wanted to send is collaboration, right? Like, we're all in this together and, better together, right? So how they can be helpful, and if you've got questions and need clarification, or just really simply maybe just some guidance, or what do I do here? I mean, these servicers are like, yeah, we welcome that, right? And look, I think most servicers would. I would hope so. So if you are working for nationals, I would go to your nationals. Look, I was at the NAMFS Conference, and I attended the servicing panel, and this is what I heard. So anyways, so we are out of time, but in fairness, because I said we were going to allow some questions, I do want to go a couple minutes over. So let's go around and ask some questions. Oh, Bill, boy, he couldn't wait to get out of his chair. All right, time out. I was just kidding. We're done. No.
Oh, I gotta go. Did I have to go?
It's a separate topic from the HOAs, but are you paying the dues and the insurance? So you can have your attorneys demand access. We just had one in Brooklyn that we had to go through this. It took us 2 months because the management company wanted an insurance certificate from any person I've ever met in my entire life, but we finally got access. But I'm on the insurance committee. I was not on the board meeting the day committees were assigned, so that's how it ended up to me. But it's an important topic, and I'm not going to ask you a question because I don't want to put you on the spot. But we have so many, in 20 years, I've had so many frivolous lawsuits that we had nothing to do with. If you had 2 weeks, I'd fill you in on all of them, but I'm just going to bring up like one example. 2018, we did 2 inspections in Newark, New Jersey on an occupied property. 2022, somebody tripped on the sidewalk. We got subrogated down and got attached to the lawsuit. The insurance company decided to settle for $15,000, but what do you think my problem is? My deductible's $25,000. So every time I get sued, it costs me $25,000. And at this point in time, after the last 6 years, $25,000 is a week's payroll for my company. We can't afford to pay it anymore. We had nothing to do with it. Our client had nothing to do with it. The mortgage servicer had nothing to do with this, but it shouldn't be subrogated down to us. So the discussion has to be started for regional companies and especially for local companies, because insurance companies are pulling our policies or refusing to insure our industry at some point. I, like Jody, operate in New York. I have to use my Florida address for my insurance policy, otherwise I can't get it because of the regulations in New York. So it's just something I would like to get the conversation started. I think it would be important to everybody and something for the future.
I'll take that one, I guess. Okay.
Please, all you, Charles.
So on that scenario right there, and just using that very specific scenario, if I understood, you had someone hurt themselves on the property that was not affiliated with your company or the client or anybody, and then they sued, and then you got named into it. So, see that, you know, I think that's a one that we need to have a little bit more conversation on than 2 minutes. Yeah. That's the first I've ever heard of that. I know, I got 2 weeks. You got me 2 weeks, right? But I've never heard of this, what you just brought up, ever. So I'm definitely intrigued, and if we can find some time, love to hear more about it.
Okay, all right. Oh, we got one more question in the back, maybe? Oh, okay. All right, we're going to make this probably our final question.
Just to kind of go on the HOA topic, what we deal with kind of as a regional, dealing with my contractors out in the field is they show up to a property, say it's a gated community, HOA, they're not allowed in. And in theory, the idea of the certified letter and all this sounds great, but what we're dealing with and a lot of my contractors are like complaining of is they feel like all the pressure's put on them to like figure all this out when they're not the owner, they're not the mortgage holder, they're not really anybody. They're just some random contractor sent there. And I know like my clients have multiple vendors going to the property. I have multiple contractors going to the property. So there's just so many people going in and out of these properties that I think that, you know, the pressure needs to be taken off and the clients need to kind of take responsibility and know, hey, we have this property, we know it's in an HOA, we know it's in a gated community, and kind of be proactive and call them, hey, we have people coming out. Because like yesterday, it was Sunday, at my son's soccer game, my contractor calls me up, he's like, hey, they won't let me in here. I can't call the client, it's Sunday night at 5 o'clock, you know? Sometimes these jobs get thrown into their route midday, they can't print the work order, you know, all these different scenarios. So I just think that the client needs to be kind of proactive in knowing what they have and making that, you know, easier for us to access.
So I'd like to respond to that one. One working? Yep, okay. Broken one. So what I would say in those scenarios where you're not able to move forward, one, that information should go back to the nationals that would come to us and say, hey, they did an inspection, the occupancy was unknown, the reason why, HOA wouldn't let you in, right? And then we would get that request to give that. Being proactive on, I'm sorry, I'm not I don't know that there's a database out there that tells you every property contact, their first name, last name, phone number, how to get a hold of them. If there is, somebody please share, because I'd love to use it. But, you know, unfortunately, you know, with loans transfer to different companies, right? And unfortunately, it's like I always call it like the childhood telephone game. It starts here, you know everything, you go to the next one, some stuff's left out as it keeps going. So there's the HOA field was never put in a servicing platform it was never really like a, hey, HOAs until 2010, when everybody's like, oh, HOAs, super liens, everything else. So there is an opportunity maybe to do some reconstructing based on that. But the only advice I could give you is in that situation, you unable to get in, the occupancy should be given back to us through the nationals of, hey, occupancy unknown, unable to get in, which then the nationals would be saying, Brooke, I need a letter so I can get in, which that would go back to the nationals and go to whoever would need it from that standpoint. I know that's not a perfect system, but, again, I'm open for suggestions, opportunities.
I mean, in some cases, right? I mean, maybe extreme, maybe it already happens, but like if the HOA is just refusing to let you in, like, okay, it's our property. Like we gave out the money on this, right? Like we've got interest. I mean, I would say, and look, you guys probably already do it. Engage with your local counsel. Who is my attorney on this case? What can they help me with, right? I mean, because at that point, like if they can't help you, what are we going to do? But hopefully they can. So, but being proactive, right? So I think is probably the answer for a lot of the issues that we deal with sometimes. So, okay.